Major funding for these programs has been provided by grants from Chase Commercial Term Lending and M&T Bank, Geneva Burns, Giantomasi and Webster, Capital One Bank, the Wickoff Group, New York Community Bank, Greenberg Traurig, Perfect Building Maintenance, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company. Additional funding is provided by grants from Aerial Property Advisors, AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Colliers International NYC, Cushman & Wakefield, Customers Bank, CUNY TV Foundation, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, First Nationwide Title Insurance Agency, Flushing Bank, Friedman, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, Herrick Feinstein, Hersha Hospitality Trust, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Chairman, USRealty.com, John Katsimides, Red Apple Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Meridian Capital Group, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, People's United Bank, RBS Citizens Bank, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, The Continuum Company, Urban American, and these friends.
When in New York were there places like fancy gyms, salad places, medical centers? When was it? 20 years ago, you never had these businesses. Yeah, you had Jack LaLanne, you had these other things. You had this food that could kill you with carbohydrates over here. Okay, you may have had a part-time medical center, but who knew? So there's some emerging trends taking place in New York and around the country. And with the help of Jeff Roseman, my executive producer for today's show, we have assembled a group of interesting, trendy type of new retailers for New York City and the country. My guests today include Dr. Ned Shami, who is the COO of City Med Urgent Care Centers, Jeff Winehouse, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Development Officer at Equinox Holdings, Colin McCabe, who is the co-president and co-founder of Chopped, and last but not least, the man who knows more about retail than anyone in the city right now, my executive producer, my friend Jeff Roseman, who's the Executive Vice President of Newmark Grubb Knight Frank. So, you've been in the business at least 25 years. I know it's deceiving, okay? But 25 years ago, if a guy like that said to you, I want to open up a restaurant that takes lettuce and chops it and puts ingredients in, what would have you said? A little crazy?
25 years ago, the tenants running around were Hallmark cards and coffee shops and drugstores, and it's incredible because all of the new diversity now in the city, and from salads to the fitness world.
Wait a second, I remember the first Equinox. I met these two guys who had some apartment buildings on the Upper West Side, and they went into business with two dentists in a place where they said, who's going to go to Amsterdam Avenue and 76th Street? And that was 1991. And no offense, when I remember retail health care, it was simple. It was called a Medicaid mill. There wasn't urgent care centers. There wasn't this type of building. What changed? Why has Equinox? I mean, when we talk about Equinox Holdings, this is the premier gym, okay? The Fitness Magazine says it, and everybody knows it. If you want the finest gym in the country, it's Equinox. But then Equinox is not only Equinox, okay? Whoever thought that you'd have pure yoga, okay? And then that you'd have Soul Cycle. Boy, the cycles are hard on me, even though I like the cycles. And then now they have Blink. How do you see the world today in retailing? And because you've been with Equinox Holding all these years.
I've been there quite a while. So I think Equinox is not a gym, it's a fitness club. So let's just get that terminology.
I didn't, I was giving you
Blink is a gym. No, I think, with an evolving population, smarter people taking more care of themselves and thinking about sustainability in their lifestyles, Equinox has been very successful growing with that. And I think we started that trend in the early 90s. We've been at it for 20 plus years. We're now up to 66 locations worldwide, with 21 locations in Manhattan. And we've hit a niche market of, smart people that care about their health.
Now, Equinox is only in Manhattan? You're in Long Island also, aren't you?
Equinox is in 8 major markets in the U.S. and in London and Toronto. So we're in 10 markets. The highest concentration of locations is in Manhattan, where we have 19 open clubs and 2 clubs under construction now. We are in the New York suburbs as well, in Westchester County, on Long Island, and in Fairfield County.
So here's the question. You go into a certain type of neighborhood, you go into a certain type of neighborhood, and you go. How do you determine where the next Chopped? I mean, how do you determine that you were going to be in Union Square for the first Chopped?
Well, 13 years ago, when we said we wanted to start a salad place, my partner Tony and I, people laughed at us at the time. They said, "You're going to chop a salad, that's your restaurant concept." And they laughed, but eventually we were able to raise money, and we were able to find a landlord at the time in 2001 who's going to take a risk with us, right? Because what we were doing was novel. The real estate market was through the roof. And in a sense, we were lucky. And we opened up there, and it was fantastic. And Union Square is a bit of a mixed-use market. You have a lot of office, you have a lot of residential, and it's 7 days, 14-day parts. So it was a good first experience for us. But we also knew that we were serving a lot of office people. So our second space was on 52nd Street between Park and Madison. And that was a fantastic location. We knew we could just get by in an expensive area with just office workers. Now, we're looking for rents that work. We have 13 years of historical data. We know we can do $2,000 a square foot. That's kind of the criteria for what we're looking for. Some rents are untenable.
That's pretty good retail sales, $2,000 a square foot.
It is. Those are Manhattan. Speed kills for us. It's about the food being better than everybody else,
Since
but about
Apple
the
has
speed.
the highest price per square, their sales are about $5,700. Just to say $2,000 a square foot is a very nice number.
It's again because we're maniacally focused on speed in some of these locations.
Because they go for fitness over there. Right?
Yeah.
So
They're running to the gym.
These people are in great physical shape over there.
Yeah,
Situation. How does a City MD Urgent Care Center come around? Since I'm a walker, I always walk around the city. I see these certain other competitors, and then you see, City MD. Where'd you come about from?
The healthcare is a little more complicated in the sense that you mentioned 20 years ago what was going on in healthcare, and today the center of the universe has shifted in healthcare. And what I mean by that is that traditionally physicians were the center of this universe that we called healthcare. And you hear the phrase patient-centric care coming into play. And this is what it translates in the real estate world is instead of these massive hospital centers being located in Long Island or New Jersey or 2 locations in Manhattan, healthcare is really becoming patient-centric, and that means you will see
Which
providers
their
like
word is
CityMD.
customers.
You'll see us coming to the customers or us coming to the patients in neighborhoods that's convenient and accessible. So the way we view it is accessibility. Patients need access, convenient access to care, and the only way you can do that is by being in their neighborhoods, in the residential density.
Now we go to the guru. How has landlords looked at these type of businesses change? Okay, as Colin said before, he found some good landlord who wanted him, but most landlords would say, restaurant? I don't like him. I'm not giving you anything. How do landlords look at all 3 of these people?
It's a great question, and the reality is, and I've been lucky enough to do deals with all of these guys, and as a landlord's agent, and when we're evaluating who to put into a space, you go on, you look at their existing locations, you follow them as much as you can, but what all three of these companies do better than anybody in their industry is execution. I mean, you walk into a Chopped, that line is moving. I mean, they get you in and out, and that's, that a tenant,
because they're lettuce. It's like the rabbits. You get,
but they move. They know how to move the lines, and for someone to pay that kind of rent that you're looking for them to pay, they got to get customers in and out.
Which Colin, and it relates very interesting for all three. Very many people would believe that Chopped is only open certain hours of the day, but Colin said it's 10 to 10, most of your locations. Equinox Holdings, I mean, you're really open close to 16 hours a day,
correct.
18 hours a day, and you're open at least 12 to 14 hours. So for a retailer, because you are a form of a retailer, for a retailer, you're getting more efficiency for the money you're paying for the rent.
Are you open as late in DC as well?
Yeah, it depends on the neighborhood, but typically, yes.
If I'm a landlord for any one of them, I'd feel very comfortable, and I'm involved with the real estate, especially if I know it's Equinox, or I would prefer to take a city MD who has venture capital behind it the same way that you have, as opposed to somebody who's saying, oh, I like the idea, I'm going to be a copycat.
Right.
Copycats we've always had through the seasons.
All the tenants are I think they're looked at as amenities to the buildings. The retail is such a small portion compared to upstairs.
But here it relates to the retail and the upstairs. There are a number of Equinoxes and Blinks on different levels. Okay, you go to Park Avenue, at One Park Avenue, you're on the second floor. You go to some places in the Village, you're also up on the second floor. You're always on the first floor over there. You're always on the first floor. How do landlords look at it today, and how do you look at it? Do you mind being on the second floor?
We have been able to be very creative with space in order to make the rents work in New York. So with 30,000 plus square feet, it would be impossible financially for us to be on ground floor. So the way our strategy has been to find the best markets and the best corners and the best main locations, and then be very versatile and very creative with the space that we take. So we can use basement space that others might not put a lot of value on. We can be on multi-levels. We can be on we need a ground floor presence, but we can be very creative with space, which has allowed us to make deals work. In terms of your question to Jeff, our amenity value to an office building or to a residential development is really strong. So we do get a lot of landlords who are looking for us to come in and anchor that project. They can, and which is one of the reasons why Related got involved with us on an ownership level.
Right, but there are others. I mean, worldwide on 2nd Avenue, you were a major amenity in the sale of the units for the building because there was an Equinox in the building.
I believe that Worldwide will tell you that the velocity of sales and the price point that they got on those condominiums on 74th and 2nd increased substantially because of our involvement in that project.
In a smaller way than Equinox, we can be an amenity to an office building, and sometimes we'll find a AAA building with a great landlord that'll come to us and say, hey, listen, we love Chopped, you've been around for 13 years, you have operating experience, our building wants you, and this is where we'll find a rent deal. We'll give you a good rent. We'll give you a very raw space. It'll cost a lot to build because you're in a AAA office building, but we'll give you the size you want at a fair price, and it's yours.
Jeff was saying, an Equinox, you need 30,000 is the right size. What is the right size for a Chopped? And then I'm going to ask what the right size for the other locations.
It's really 3,000 square feet, but that includes, we could take 2,000 on the ground with 1,000 in the basement.
For prep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that we would prefer 1,600 or 1,800 on the ground with 1,000 in the basement, so we can have all of our back of house there, and then just be selling out the first floor. And that we see cheaper rents that way too, on a per square foot.
And what about
basis.
you for Soul Cycle and Blink and?
So Equinox average is about 30,000. We can go bigger in certain submarkets. Blink is really 15,000 square feet plus or minus. Again, we can go a little bit. We can't go smaller than that. We can go a little bit bigger in a corporate market where we need to increase the size of our locker room facilities. Soul Cycle ranges between 3,000 on the small side and 5,000 on the large side, depending upon the layout and configuration of the space.
And Pure Yoga?
Pure Yoga, we have 2 locations, Upper East Side, Upper West Side. They're both about 20,000 square feet.
20,000.
Probably could go a little bit smaller if we had to do them again.
And Ed, what about you for CMD?
4,000 square feet in the city with 1,000 square feet in the basement. As we go to the outer boroughs, it kind of goes up
What
to
do you
6,000 to
use the
7,000
1,000 square feet? Yeah, I understand their business, and their business. He needs it for prep. He uses it for
Medical supplies, yeah.
Isn't that expensive to, especially in the rent market, to be putting that? Wouldn't it possibly be better to have a central commissary where you could send your medical supplies?
Yeah, we've looked at that, and we try to do that. Our business is really based on high volume, so we see a lot of patients per day at the facilities. That's how we make the rents work. So it's access and volume, but we prefer not to pay for the basement space.
Here's a question which relates. Manhattan's a major center for you for Equinox.
Yes.
There are certain blinks more in the suburbs. You have a large number of blinks in the suburbs. You don't have anything really in this.
No, we do. We do. We have a location in Rye Ridge Shopping Center in Westchester.
No,
Mount Kisco.
I'm talking more on the boroughs. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, out of boroughs.
Out of boroughs. Okay. I know you've opened in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Okay.
several.
With all of the development that's taking place in Brooklyn, being Brooklyn is chic. Okay. And perhaps and you got the great broker over here. I mean, people are talking about the Barclays Center, okay? And, Shake Shack is opening up across the street from the over there. You have other situations there. CHOP could be there. I'm not sure if it's a true 24/7 community.
Well, it's a rent versus density issue. Shake Shack that's ground zero. And that's hard space to come by. We would jump at something like that. But other locations that you're seeing, you just don't necessarily see the same
But here's
density.
the question. There are, as I was saying, luxury rental buildings being built in Brooklyn. There are, Williamsburg over there, is a hot market today, which is the Equinox customer or the SoulCycle or any of your products. Williamsburg is a market also that could be good for you.
We're going to Williamsburg.
So you like the Brooklyn market? You believe the Brooklyn market is?
Yeah, Brooklyn market for us is very similar to the Manhattan market, especially downtown Brooklyn, Brooklyn Heights, Williamsburg, Cobble. A lot of density.
We like Brooklyn. We're in Williamsburg with SoulCycle, and we're in Brooklyn with 3 Blink locations, and we're in Brooklyn with Equinox in Brooklyn Heights. So for Equinox, we watch Brooklyn very closely, and right now, everything is chic and cool and has a hip vibe to it, but in our mind, for Equinox, it's still emerging. It's not quite there yet. We need to get to an inflection point where there's the critical mass and the proper density for it to be a true stabilized Equinox market. It's not quite there yet.
What about for Chopped? Do you think downtown Brooklyn? I'm not going to the Brooklyn Heights. I'd say more in downtown Brooklyn on the Fulton Street or something like that situation.
It'd be a great market for us. We're looking. We haven't found the right site. Rents are creeping there a bit. So we have a little less data in Brooklyn because we've been operating in Manhattan for so long. But we're shopping there for sure.
One of the Forest City Ratner built in Yonkers, Ridge Shopping Center, where you happen to have one of the largest medical groups. You have the West Med Medical Group, which has like 15,000 square feet over there, and you have the Lego store, you have Lord and Taylor, you have a Whole Foods over there,
An Apple store too,
and
don't
an
you?
Apple store over there. You're in the suburbs. How do you make a decision on where in the suburbs you should put your stores?
Density, demographics, psychographics. Yonkers doesn't make the cut for Equinox. It does make the cut for Blink. So we are very disciplined around Equinox development outside of Manhattan.
For my audience, since I'm aware of it, tell us what's the difference between a Blink and an Equinox.
Equinox is luxury and lifestyle. It's highest level of design and aesthetic, highest level of programming. It's the fully evolved version of what a fitness club should
So
be.
it's a place that somebody like him shouldn't be going to. He
Jeff should be at an Equinox, which we're still trying to figure out why he's not.
Okay.
Blink, on the other hand, is is fun and basic and clean and entry level, very accessible. It's a great starting point for people. It's very low price point. David Rockwell designed, fun, without a lot of the ancillary services and amenities that an Equinox would have.
Showers?
Showers, yes.
No towels.
No towels. Bring your own towels.
Air dry.
Air dry.
Air dry.
Okay. Air dry, but depending on how much hair, about the air dry. But okay, where and I emphasize, do you see for all of your businesses, because alternative uses, like both of you are opening up in Brookfield Place, which is a different market. The old retail at Brookfield wasn't that great.
No, they've done just a great
Right.
job.
It was truly a second-rate type of retail. Even the restaurants on the second floor, no one really went there. But I think part of it is now it's a number of years later than it was. Okay, I remember working in the World Financial Center. First of all, I felt it was the biggest schlep in the world to get over there. Over the bridge or whatever it was. It was like going to the end of the world. So that market has changed. Where do you see as good opportunities for you to expand, let's say, in Manhattan? Is it the Upper West Side? Do you think there's a market in Inwood because there's a growing community over there?
Not for Equinox. I can answer that question for each of the brands if you'd like. But in Manhattan, the way we look at it for Equinox is, again, we have 19 open clubs and 2 clubs committed and under development, Bryant Park and Brookfield Place, as you just mentioned. There is probably, the way we look at it for Equinox in Manhattan, there's probably 2 or 3 gaping holes in our coverage where we should clearly be. And that's it. And then there's the emerging neighborhoods. There's the Hudson Yards. There's the Lower East Side. There's the Nomad, Park Avenue South corridor. So there's 3 or 4 markets that are really starting to become important. And then the third category that we look at is infill locations. So you said Upper West Side. We have 3 clubs in the Upper West Side. We're at Columbus Circle, we're at 76 in Amsterdam, we're at 92nd and Broadway. You think we'd have the Upper West Side covered, but based upon the science and the math that we use understanding where our members are coming from, there's probably 2 or 3 locations that we could do between Columbus Circle and 100th Street on the west side to fill in the gap. So we look at it 3 different ways for Equinox.
Now, you're more Midtown-centric, right, in most of your locations?
We have a number of Midtown locations. We also have mixed use like Union Square or Bryant Park, and also Madison Square Park. We just opened on the Upper East Side, which is more of a purely residential. We're looking at the Upper West Side. But again, there's so much money pouring into fast casual restaurants. It's explosive right now. There's people with market density now, like Chipotle, Pret, Chopped. They're continuing to expand. And then there's national brands like Panera, Potbelly, and they're coming in. So you're seeing a tremendous amount of competition, and prices are starting to spike.
But here's a competition question. There's always, because we are in a world of competition, somebody is out there to become the next City MD Urgent Care Center. Somebody wants to be the next Equinox in the variety of products. Somebody wants to be the next salad or a casual food. How do you compete with the new kids on the block?
Quality. You have to maintain quality, and for us, it's providing accessible care that is affordable. So healthcare today, as we all know, is incredibly expensive, and patients can't really afford the options that they have today in terms of high-cost models out there. So for us, it's maintaining quality, reducing costs, and being accessible.
And also have a good quality place. Right near my office, there's a competitor of yours, but it looks like a second-rate type of competitor. It's like they're competitors of Blink. Are you seeing new competitors of theirs coming into the market and asking you?
I don't know if they're direct competitors, but you see people in similar space, as Colin mentioned. A lot of quick service food guys that are always coming in, and you can pretty much tell who's got the backbone behind them, who can sort of figure out. New York is a tricky market, and it's not for everybody.
I'm worried about this business. Okay, and maybe I'm older. I remember in the 70s or 80s there was something called the bagel nosh. Okay, and they had a lot of stores. You know, it's like the chock full of nuts. At one time, you had a lot of stores. There's this proliferation of cupcake stores, okay? And we do know that Crumbs has had some difficulty in the cupcake business. And there's going to be a weeding out, okay? They've been in business 25 years. You've been in business 14 years. You've been in business a couple years. What fads do you see as difficult things, and as a landlord, that you don't want to have?
Well, I mean, I think that what we've seen recently, one of the fads that was a little troubling was this sort of the yogurt and fast serve ice cream. There were a lot of guys popping up, and then like in any industry, you know the strong are going to survive, and so that's probably the most recent that was. You know, there's 6 or 7 yogurt guys running around the city, and within a year there'll be probably 3 that'll.
Do you
own
see the
market.
same situation with the cupcakes?
Probably in most industries. There's a few that survive. There's a few strong. You know, there's room for more than one clearly in all industries, but you know, generally you do see.
And what other trends? I mean, do you see what new other businesses? Industry type of business
you know,
coming out?
Whether it's new industry.
I don't see any more Kinkos, you know.
No, you don't see any more Kinkos, but you see a lot of. We're seeing a lot of influx from overseas of retailers coming in, fashion retailers, and you know, both luxury and
You know,
discount.
During my walk the other day, you know, Warby Parker has opened up, you
great
know,
concept.
and they're opening up stores right now. So you know. LensCrafter and Lucrezia, they control the market, but there's a lot. Them, and I see C is opening up, so there are more optical stores opening up.
Well, I did the first Equinox deal, or one of the first, on 19th and Broadway, and I remember thinking at the time, 20-something years ago, how does the city need another
You
gym?
were about 3 at that.
Exactly. But you know, the key was the Aricos built a better mousetrap, you know, and that really was the gyms that were around at the time were Bally's and Jack LaLanne, and that was it. And I really thought that was enough.
And you know what? And you just brought up the fact. Jack LaLanne went out of business, and Bally filed bankruptcy about 3 times.
Right.
So, you know, people have to adapt, and quality is really an important key into the situation over there. Do you see any next, since you've expanded vertically in a variety of areas, do you see any other new products from Equinox Holdings?
There's a lot of stuff in the R&D phases that we're going to be rolling out at some point. Most of it is not able to be discussed.
So what we're going to do in a couple of months, because I really enjoy the conversation, we're going to invite everybody back, okay? We're going to move seats. We're going to change seats over there, okay? And we'll talk about, because I really think we had a very interesting topic about emerging trends in retail. I'd like to thank Ned, Jeff, Colin, and needless to say, my buddy over here, Mr. Roseman. See you next week.